Why is nobody talking about this? I mean this beautiful piece of meat. It is a steak and it's one of the most tender steaks of a cow.
Big thanks to Napoleon Grills for sponsoring this episode.
If I mention the name of this steak, most people in the Netherlands will know this steak. But if you look at it, nobody really knows what it looks like other than red meat. And that's because it's not a steak that people regularly showcase as something really extraordinary and extra special. And personally, I don't really care about that. But what I do care about is that it's 25% cheaper than a beef tenderloin. And let me tell you that it's not 25% less great than a tenderloin. As a matter of fact, it's pretty close. This is it. This is the steak. And personally, even if you put it in front of me, I wouldn't probably recognize it because I rarely see it in this form. But since recently we butchered our own bull and we had it all cut up, I had the opportunity to cut out this unique technical cut. And I must say, it's very underwhelming. It doesn't look spectacular. There's not a great amount of intermuscular fat. As a matter of fact, it's kind of a boring looking steak. But let's be honest, so is a beef tenderloin. And beef tenderloins are one of the most expensive cuts. They come from a cow. So without further ado, I'm going to cut this up into steaks so we can actually start cooking one. The way that the butcher cuts this into steaks is by just start slicing it up. And it kind of makes sense because normally I would just like to cut it against the grain, so we're going to have an enjoyable way to eat this steak. But there's a problem. Throughout the whole steak, there's not one grain running in the same direction. On this side, the grain is just running in this direction, and then all of a sudden it just moves this way, and then on this side it's running that way, and here it's running that way. Yeah. It's not the easiest steak to process. So we're just going to do what the butcher does, and that is cutting it up into steaks. You see this? This is a piece of silver skin, and that is extremely tough, and it's no bueno. So it's definitely got to come out. That means I can just slice this whole piece off because it's not going to be part of the steak. Now you can see we got a little bit of intermuscular fat. We got grains running in all kinds of direction, and that's going to be my first steak. Now, it's not the most beautiful one because it's basically the end that I cut off to flatten the whole surface off. And now I can cut off my first proper steak. Look at that. That's a little bit better. Traditionally, these steaks are not cut in a thick way. They're mostly cut finger thick. And the reason that they're cut thinner is that they're very, very lean, and all you want to do is get the outside a little touch of a sear and then basically start eating them because you want to eat these steaks rare. Now before I'm going to cook the steaks, I'm going to season them with the Pitmaster's Texas seasoning. So I'm going to take this steak, I'm just going to lightly season it. This has some salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder, basically anything that you want to season your steak with. Sprinkle a little on. Just going to season each one of these. And while the steaks are soaking up the seasoning, I'm going to fire up my Napoleon grill. I'm going to open up the side burner and then just put some gas in, hit the ignition button, and now it's going to come up to temperature. This side burner is called the sizzle zone, and that's for a good reason, because the infrared heat in this barbecue will go up to 450 degrees Celsius, searing the steak instantly. And on this grill sits stainless steel cast grill grates. Those will soak up the infrared heat, maintain it, and once it hits the steak, it will release it instantly, giving you the perfect sear mark. And that's exactly what we need for this technique because, like I said, I want my steaks to be rare. So no long cooking times, no reverse sear steak, just searing for the first time. Before I put the steaks on this grill with that temperature, I do like to use a little bit of spray oil. And that's going to make sure that the steaks don't stick to the grill grates. So while that's getting up to temperature, I'm going to show you the second part of the cook. And that is going to take place in the main cooking chamber. Well, at least in the cast iron pan that sits there. I'm going to fire up the two burners that sit underneath the pan, set them to the lowest setting and warm it up slowly. And the steak goes on and it starts sizzling. I'm just going to give it about 15 seconds to build up that sear mark. Got the first sear mark on. I'm going to go to the second sear mark. And what I want from that is a little bit of flavor and a good presentation side. Now I've got the sear marks on one side and I'm going to do the same on the other side. Remember, don't do it for too long, otherwise you're cooking the steak and it's done already. In the meantime, this pan is heated up. I'm going to put in a lump of butter. Once the butter is melted and is starting to lightly brown, I'm going to take the pan off the fire, add a little bit of minced garlic, a little bit, more like 2 tablespoons, some parsley. No need to season it because we've already seasoned the steaks. Then I'm just going to stir it, and then I'm going to lay my steaks in, and they're going to warm up the rest of the steak in the butter like that, with that garlic and that parsley. Now this is the time that you want to take out your thermometer, poke it, and see what the temperature is in your steak. So mine is at 36 at the moment, 41, what we got here, 39. So I'm just gonna put them back in the grill for a little bit, just to warm up in that pan in the butter, and I'm going to take them off at 48 degrees Celsius. Look at this, we got bubbly butter, we got garlic, we got parsley, we got the Texas seasoning. This is going to taste amazing. But you have to keep in mind that the steak is still rising in temperature. That's why I'm taking the steak off a little early, so it gets the time to rise a little further on the plate. Now, of course, we all know that presentation is key here, and this looks delicious. In a restaurant or when you cook for a group of people, this is a perfect way to approach a steak, because by the time that it reaches the table, it's going to be 10 minutes of resting, and that will ensure you're going to have the perfect cooked steak that is well rested. In English, this is called the top round steak. In Dutch, we call it the kogel steak. It's a replacement word for ball bearing. And that is what this is. And the reason why they call it that is because at the hip, it's very close to the ball of the hip, and it's very close to the tenderloin. So that is where you can find it. Now you know how to cook it. Now let's see if we did right by this steak and we cooked it as rare as we should. To me, that looks like perfection. If I would receive this at a restaurant, this is a steak of about 100 to 150 grams, but it looks freaking perfect. On point. That is a very, very tasty steak. Is it as good as tenderloin? No, it's not. Is it as good as ribeye? No, it's not. Is it as good as New York strip? No, it's not. But what you're paying for, it's a reasonable steak at a reasonable price. And I kind of understand why it's never taken the limelight. It's never stealing any shows. It's basically like driving a Toyota. That is a good comparison to what it feels like to eat this steak. It's reliable, it's okay, it will feed your hunger. Is it the best steak ever? No, but really, just like with Toyota, you need to know about it. Cheers guys, see you in the next one. I love steak so much.